Hey guys, Tyro here, and today we're taking a look at the version 7 and 8.0 changes for the new Commander mod. Starting out, we have US Forces General Faction changes, the WC-51 Dodge and the M3. Passenger moving accuracy from 50% to 30%. So when passengers inside these vehicles, when shooting out, are having the accuracy reduced. At the moment, WC-51 is kind of dominating the 1v1 meta. Very hard to deal with in the early game. Gets US Force off to a really strong start. And quite a few of the top players also have complained about the M3 Bazooka bus. It's the half track with 2 squads of bazookas in it with a minesweeper as well, so can't get snared by any mines. Also being an issue. So overall some changes to try and nerf those a little bit. Might be too steep of a nerf, 50% to 30%, but we'll have to wait and see. So here's a cavalry rifleman squad inside a WC-51 chasing down the squad on retreat. No upgrades, just the standard grease guns. Okay. The squad inside's got Thompsons. Oh man. Not even close. This is doing like a fraction of the damage it did previously. Now the car's coming after me, but this time it's got the machine gun upgrade as well on the front. Of course, this machine gun is unlike the M3 A1 scout car. It doesn't have a machine gun on the rear as well, so you really have to keep the squad in front all the time. But yeah, I mean, overall, big nerf, like from 50% to 30%, you know. I feel like often these squads previously would be maybe escaping on like 2 models or something from that kind of a chase down, but now the squads get away, even with like fully upgraded everything, machine gun and weapon upgrades, they're getting away pretty easily, so pretty big nerf to the WC-51. Brits, general faction changes. So there's a note here about the Vickers K upgrade requiring platoon command post. That's not the case. It gets reverted in 8.0. But self-repair costs going from 15 to 25. So the idea here is that self-repair heals the same amount of damage as a Faust inflicts. So it should cost the same amount of munitions. I'm not too concerned about this either way. It seems like a reasonable change. Soviets general faction changes. Conscripts, 7-man cons were too potent, previously beating unupgraded grenadiers at all ranges, especially in cover duels. Cover bonus to cooldown and reload from 50% to 30%. And there's a new DPS curve there. So yeah, as we saw in the last video I did, conscripts basically mean the grenadiers couldn't win at any range, so we have to retest this new bonus, see if grenadiers stand a chance. Okay, so long range cover to cover fight. Here we've got the 7-man conscripts with their reduced cover bonus against the LMG grenadiers. Last time we tested this, it was a pretty handy win for the conscripts. Remember, this is basically the grenadiers' optimal range, you know, max range heavy cover. This is where they should be thriving. Pick off one conscript model pretty early. Conscripts return fire. Grenadiers down to half now. Conscripts also at half health, but still at 5 models. Now down to 4 models, and it looks like maybe the LNG Grenadiers are going to start taking over here. Remember, a lot of their DPS is all tied to the LNG. So as they drop models, not nearly as impactful for the overall DPS as it is for the conscripts dropping models. You don't have the firepower concentrated on, you know, 1 or 2 weapons like that. So the Grenadiers are probably going to win this now, so that's good signs. You know, at the end of the day, these are both 240 manpower squads with a similar munitions cost investment. I suppose technically you do have to pay 20 manpower to reinforce the squad after getting the upgrade, but they could just outright beat them at every range. That would be very troubling and make life very hard for us here if they can just never win an engagement against conscripts. But yeah, I believe last time I did this test, conscripts were on 4 or 5 men left, winning the engagement. I think they got slightly good RNG model drops that time. This time I think they got slightly bad. They seem to, most of the damage seemed to get concentrated onto the first 2 models, and they dropped pretty quickly. Yeah, they do end up losing this engagement to the Grenadiers. Grenadiers still a little bit under quarter health there. Okay, so now we're testing the 7-man conscripts, closing the distance on some LNG Grenadiers behind heavy cover. A little light cover there they might have benefited from on the approach. Ooh, Cons got annihilated in this test. I think last time we did this, conscripts won. I feel like they took more damage on approach than usual in that particular engagement, but yeah, they definitely lost that one. So 7-man conscripts closing the distance on some LMG Grenadiers behind heavy cover. Okay, that's just about the expected result there. It is surviving with, you know, 2 or 3 models above half health. So here we are testing 7-man conscripts behind light cover, P-Greens charging in. Same test as last time. Last time P-Greens narrowly won.
Enemy forces are neutralizing a sector.
So yeah, last time P-Greens won with like 1 model. The model was reasonably healthy, but definitely a more dominant win for the P-Greens in that engagement now that the cover bonus has been nerfed slightly. M1910 Maxim. In order to increase the general viability of Maxims without promoting Maxim spam, we are increasing suppression when using the sustained fire ability. The following change is intended to allow the Maxim to better suppress tactical control groups. That's a word for blob, basically. When the player is spotting for their Maxim and using the sustained fire ability in a strategic fashion. Sustained fire ability now increases suppression by 15%, so we adjust as necessary. I think that's a good idea, because at the moment if the Maxim gets kind of like charged at frontally by like a v7.0 squad or maybe a green blob, it can just get like the gunner just continuously decrewed, just can't get the suppression in. So now at least if you have a spotter, you know the enemy's coming forwards, activate the sustained fire, you'll actually be able to suppress the squads and they won't knock you out head on with the LMGs. So happy about that change. So now we're testing the Maxim sustained fire ability. Activates pretty quickly and definitely noticeable how much more rapid it is in suppressing a squad and pinning. Yeah, so time to pin, definitely a big noticeable buff there for the Maxim. And that's on cooldown now. So yeah, it's not overwhelming in strength as you would expect. I mean, it's very cheap, but definitely a noticeable bonus as those squads came in there. M42 anti-tank gun. Given the recent updates to the M42, we have adjusted its cost to better reflect its current performance. Cost from 200 to 240, reverted boost to first strike bonus. So in version 6.0 there was, or maybe 5.0, the first strike bonus was going to last for 2 shots, I think, maybe even 3, but now it's going back to 1, I think. So that's that change there. Same performance as live in terms of first strike bonus, and cost also going up. So this is getting quite a lot of nerfs. I think the feeling here is that it costs the same amount, almost the same amount to recrew an M42 as it does to just call in a new one. So trying to make it a little bit more costly, so we see a little bit less M42 spam. For marked radio bunker replaced with Observation 251 upgrade. Due to feedback, we have replaced the observation bunker with a mobile unit that better meshes with the theme of the commander. Base observation bunker. All non-upgraded 251 half-tracks can deploy as a mobile observation post. Disables weapons and movement. Unit is granted camouflage and access to special abilities detected when within 20 meters of the enemy. Auto detects nearby enemy units within 60 meters when deployed. Can launch artillery flares when deployed. Requires 3 command points. So basically, bunker's ability have been moved on to half track. You just build a standard half track. Can't upgrade with the flamethrowers. I have already played with this. It was okay. But the detection range 60 meters. It's kind of hard to make this that relevant, I found, but maybe I just need to practice with it more. 60 meters, it's not quite enough for me at least, but the flares did come in handy. I always like using half tracks, you know, so another reason to get them. It's fine by me. Okay, so now we're taking a look at the new observation post half track. Activate it here. Takes a little bit of time going. Goes camouflage straight away, but doesn't detect units until you see the antenna go up like that. You can see now it's detecting a unit. Still has access to the flares. I believe the flare range is the same as the detection range, both on at 60 range. So you can see the unit there. So yeah, now it's camouflaged to 20 range, and then deactivating it. So it takes a while to engage, and during that time you can't disengage it, but then if you need to move it, you can disengage it and it can move around. Straight away after that, and the cooldown is pretty quick on it as well. So you can see during this time I can't move it and I can't stop. It takes maybe 5 to 10 seconds to set up. And then instantly you can deactivate and start moving if you get into a sticky situation. So yeah, that is the revised observation half-track. Tiger Ace, in line with the OKW changes to allow players to be rewarded for teching, the Tiger Ace has been placed at the end of the offset tech tree. Command point requirement removed. Now requires heavy panzer corps before it can be called in. Cooldown now starts upon unit's destruction. So yeah, you've got to build tier 4 now before you can call on the Tiger Ace. Does make it come in quite a lot later. Of course, you know, it has a higher price than the standard Tiger as well. This doesn't really impact it too much, cooldown starting upon unit's destruction, because you have to tick tier 4, you know, you already have access to building other tanks, so you most likely will build other tanks. You won't just bank up to like 400 fuel or whatever, just in case you lose your call on and instantly call on a new one. But, I mean, that could happen still, like, if your population's right, it's limit in a super long game. So maybe in 4v4s now this will be a little bit more accessible. I sometimes see people on the forums saying, oh man, this isn't, it's too hard to get to the heavy tanks, they're coming way too late for 4v4s. So now it'll be a little bit more accessible. Of course you do have to spend a lot more resources getting to it. But yeah, that is the Tiger Ace. Still very strong. I used this in 2v2 just last night and had a very good performance on this patch. It was very good. OKW Panzer V Tiger. We have reshuffled the OKW Tiger's veterancy around to distinguish itself from the Aussie counterpart, which focuses more on its aura support ability over raw combat potential. So Vet 1 gets Command Tiger ability. Oh man, and Combat Blitz is going to Vet 4? Okay, well I feel like that's maybe a bit of a nerf, honestly. Combat Blitz very strong, especially on the Tiger. A little bit slower, you know, you kind of need that speed boost sometimes. Vet 2, I think that's pretty similar to the regular Tiger. So I guess the aura used to be on Vet 4, Vet 5, now it's on Vet 1, Vet 2. So it comes online earlier, but yeah, Combat Blitz to Vet 4, so that's definitely a nerf to really its combat strength. You're going to be relying on this aura a lot more now. Command Tiger ability, the aura from 25 to 15, so reducing its cost so you can just use it basically whenever you want at that stage. So now taking a look at the 8.0 changes, US Forces Pathfinders now start on initial cooldown from 18 to 20, vet requirements from 340, 680, 1360, doesn't say what it's going to here though, but I do know that it's going up. I believe they're going to the same numbers as Aussie Grenadiers, so they, you know, if you're using them both equally well, they should be vetting up at a similar rate now instead of Pathfinders vetting up much more quickly. It applies to both variants with regular Pathfinders and the INR Pathfinders. So yeah, Pathfinders kind of, a lot of players just going Pathfinder spam, especially in team games. With their strong line of sight, made it very hard to outmaneuver US forces, so now kind of limiting the Pathfinder spam. Might be able to get like 2 of them in the early game, but not 3 of them without any rifles at all. British Universal Carrier reverted Vickers K tech lock change, we already covered that. Armor from 7 to 5.8. It's a pretty sizable armor nerf, honestly. I guess I'll just have to see how it plays out in the game, but yeah, it means the UC is going to take quite a lot more damage frontally now from small arms, and even, you know, when it's fighting other scout cars like the 221 perhaps, or maybe even the Kubel might be able to fight back a little bit more. Still going to lose, but you know, might be able to fight back just a little bit more, and maybe in conjunction with some supporting squads, it might be able to fight off the Universal Carrier. So I'm going to show the revised armor on the Universal Carrier. You've got 2 squads here, shooting at the Universal Carrier long range. So it took a pretty big burst there early on. Remember, small arms has the same penetration in all ranges, so it's not like these squads being closer will help the penetration. Unless they can get onto the rear armor, it's not going to matter too much. So I'd say that's a noticeable change, but nothing too insane, honestly. still going to be quite strong. Soviets, 1910 Maxim. Sustained fire suppression bonus going up from 15% to 25%, so there's the version 7.0 changes. 15% bonus suppression now going to 25%, so a little bit more powerful there. A couple bug fixes. Usually I skip over these, but this is a big one here. Bofors is going to be able to kill aircraft. Chance to down planes is set to 10% per round. So this might require some fine tuning, but yeah, all those videos like, oh look, I made 20 Bofors and it can't shoot down one plane, those videos that have been floating around recently, it's getting fixed. So here we are testing out the new Bofors anti-aircraft capabilities.
Emplacement under attack.
Oh, maybe not, shooting at a squad first. Now shooting at the planes. I'm still having some trouble tracking them when it's right in the middle. Didn't manage to shoot them down at all during that test. Okay, here's the Bofors anti-air capabilities. The Ju-87's flying. Man, this is not going well. Didn't manage to shoot them down at all. Seems to have a lot of trouble tracking them. The amount of shots it got off there, I don't even know. Not good news for the Bofors on early testing. Okay, so third time's a charm. Now we've got 4 Bofors, all going to try to shoot down the Ju-87. It's too close to air support. Oh, there we go. And this time it made mincemeat out of them, so I'm not sure what happened in those other 2 instances. Maybe just like at the exact wrong angle. Bofors just couldn't shoot. But there we go, it does actually end up shooting down planes. Observer mode update. So I believe this mod is going to be used in King of the Hill this weekend, and an issue if you've watched any of my casts is that watching those, you can't actually see any of the commander abilities in the toolbar, and it makes casting harder, especially if you're unfamiliar with the mod. Makes viewing more difficult. People don't really understand what's going on, like what these commanders are actually offering, so it's getting fixed to be more like the mod that's been used on the seasonal map cup, custom commander kind of mod that's on that. So yeah, for the King of the Hill this weekend, it should be firing on all cylinders, which is cool. So that's it guys, not too many changes considering there's 2 versions of the mod, but trying to get it ready for King of the Hill this weekend. Hopefully we see some really nice games in that. As always, I encourage you to get out there, play the mod for yourself. You can always stop by my stream. Generally I try to play a couple mod games every time I stream. So if you're awake at those hours, make sure you stop on by, and you too could join in for a bit of mod fun. And until next time, goodbye and good luck. A special thank you goes out to my Patreon backers and donators that help make videos like this possible.